Welcome to the disturbing internet lore Iceberg, where you'll uncover some of the most bizarre and unsettling incidents online. Some of them remain unsolved, while others are so shocking they seem almost fictional. Let's dive onto the tip of the iceberg and begin our exploration. Level 1. Dead Internet Theory. In 2021, a post titled Dead Internet Theory, Most of the Internet is Fake, appeared on the online forum Agora Road's Macintosh Cafe. The post was written by a California man who went by Illuminati Pirate on the online forum and had a shocking claim: humans were not in control of the internet anymore. According to Illuminati Pirate, the internet and all online human activity on the internet have been successfully replaced by artificial intelligence. Large portions of online content, like posts and articles, were generated by artificial intelligence, while bots replaced internet traffic and users. People who thought they were interacting with other humans online or reading their content were actually relating with AI. He also claimed that AI was suppressing posts created by other humans so it was rarely seen. Search engines like Google were believed to censor the web and limit the results of searches made by users to the ones curated and artificially made content online. The result is believed to be an algorithm controlled by the government and corporations to manipulate the human population with selected products and ideas. This wasn't the first time this theory had been floating around. Long before ChatGPT and since 2016, there had been echoes of the dead internet theory on sites like 4chan. Recently, there has been more and more evidence to back up the dead internet theory. A 2021 report that nearly half of all internet activity is by bots, the number of bots swarming around online accounts like Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and even Amazon. Many believe these bots can also spread disinformation by swaying public opinion, which is believed to have happened in many instances. While the dead internet theory has many critiques, it raises the question of whether the internet is still a platform for genuine connection, free expression, and creativity it was once believed to be. Storm Area 51. Area 51, a top-secret, highly classified United States Air Force facility in the middle of the Nevada desert, has been shrouded in secrets and mysteries since it was created during the Cold War in 1955. Was it really a site to test planes? Or were they secretly housing and dissecting aliens? And why did the CIA keep it a secret for almost 50 years? Many people wanted to know, and one of them was 21-year-old college student Matty Roberts. On July 27, 2019, he started a Facebook event called Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop All of Us. As the name implied, the plan was for a large enough group to band together, bypass security, and raid Area 51 so they could uncover whatever the government was hiding, like extraterrestrial life forms and clandestine research. The event went viral and made headlines across the world. More than 2 million people responded that they would be going, while another 1.5 million indicated they were interested. While some took it as a joke, others were quite serious about storming the base. Government officials were equally serious about keeping people out and gave severe warnings. The Air Force discouraged anyone from attempting to enter the military property, while the FBI also stated that they would be monitoring the situation. During the raid, the Federal Aviation Administration planned to close the airspace near Area 51. But some took the raid a little more personally, like the military's Public Relations Office, Defense Visual Information Distribution Service. They made a now deleted Twitter post showing the photo of a stealth bomber with the caption with a very violent warning that was later deleted and followed with an apology. Storm Area 51 was slated for September 20th, 2019. Everyone was on tenterhooks. But out of the 3.5 million people who expressed interest, only about 150 people showed up. Notably absent was Matty Roberts, the Facebook user who created the event. He had stated that he had made it up as one big joke, especially after the FBI came knocking at his door. Roberts washed his hands of anyone who followed through on it, and many called him a sellout. Instead, Roberts promoted Alien Stock, one of 3 music festivals slated to be held on the same day. Over 1,500 people attended the event, held in small towns that were not equipped to handle them. As for the 150 who tried to storm Area 51, none of them succeeded in getting in. There was just one person arrested for urinating near the entrance. Level 2. Wall Street Bets GME Saga. You know how some things just fade away over time? Think dinosaurs and dodos. Well, physical stores, gadgets, and appliances go through the same thing and become outdated with time. Take Blockbuster, for example. It was all about renting movies until Netflix came along. And thanks to iTunes on iPhones, iPods completely disappeared. In 2021, GameStop, or GME as it's known in the stock world, found itself in this challenging position. During the heydays of Nintendo and Sega, GameStop was the one-stop shop for all things video games and consoles. But as digital downloads and Amazon started to provide more convenient alternatives, GameStop was losing customers, closing stores, and seemed to be on the brink of bankruptcy. Either that or the price of their shares would drop to attract more investors. Some big investors, like hedge fund manager Melvin Capital, were so sure that GameStop was on its way out that they bet heavily against the company and made a strategic move called short selling. These investors had borrowed and sold more GameStop shares than even existed, planning to buy them at a far lower price when the share prices dropped. They would make millions of dollars, as long as the share prices didn't go up. Melvin Capital didn't know the group of Reddit day traders known as Wall Street Bets had discovered what was happening and was about to disrupt their plans. This dramatic turn of events started on the Black Friday weekend of 2021. The Wall Street Bets Reddit lit up with chatter about GameStop. There was talk about the stock price being priced lower than it should be and mentioned a few millionaires who had invested in the company. The topic gained momentum, becoming hot on the subreddit as users began discussing the potential for GameStop's resurgence. The conversation quickly spread to Twitter and YouTube, encouraging GameStop fans to purchase GME shares. On paper, after all, Melvin Capital had already sold the shares. But when the hedge fund tried repurchasing them, the people who had them weren't willing to sell them, yet forcing them to make higher and higher offers. Suddenly, these shares went from $17 to more than $500, an astonishing 1,500% increase. Melvin Capital was now making significant losses, with reports indicating that the firm lost $1 billion daily. In response, various elites, including politicians and corporate leaders, expressed concern that the working class was manipulating the stock market. There were even rumors of attempts from the White House to limit buying activity, which only intensified public support for the Wall Street Bets underdogs. As GameStop continued to dominate headlines, Melvin Capital struggled to recover as they ultimately bought back shares at heavily inflated prices. They went bankrupt and shut down in 2022. The saga of Wall Street Bets and GameStop has since become a notable example of the little guy challenging traditional power structures and taking on the big guy. Relaxing car driving jump scare. A Reddit thread asking users to share their favorite jump scares of all time turned up a lot of responses, mainly scenes from movies. The most popular were the aliens in Signs, the tall man in the doorway from It Follows, the creepy figure behind the restaurant in Mulholland Drive, and the decapitated head in Jaws. But surprisingly, the clip that got the most votes wasn't even from a movie, it was a 20-year-old energy drink ad. The 20-second video, known as the Ghost Car Commercial or Relaxing Car Drive, shows a white car cruising through the scenic countryside while soothing music played in the background. But when the car disappears behind some trees, The jump scare hits you, a scream from a zombie. It ends with a slogan saying, "You've never been so wide awake," and a can of Keffi coffee pulsing like a heartbeat. It was one of the first jump scares featuring a scream and has since set the stage for many similar pranks online. Analog horror. Analog horror is a cool subgenre of horror films that feature storylines involving lost broadcasts, emergency alerts, or distorted home video vibes. You'll often see grainy footage and funky audio from old tech like VHS tapes, cassette players, and camcorders. The genre really took off in the late 2010s, especially on YouTube. Many of these films are inspired by late-night TV and news broadcasts from the 80s and early 90s. One standout is Gemini Home Entertainment, which kicked off in 2019 on the YouTube channel Remy Abode and has over 20 episodes. Each episode starts with serene scenes of nature or AI, but then things turn dark with obscure warnings about an alien invasion by creepy parasites. Another popular analog horror series is Local 58, which plays out like broadcasts from a made-up public access TV channel, Local 58 WCLV-TV. This series mixes unsettling public service announcements, station takeovers, and conspiracy-laden visuals that often revolve around the moon or the night sky. While some analog horror films dive into end-of-the-world scenarios, others take a different route. For instance, The Walton Files draws inspiration from the Five Nights at Freddy's series and tells the backstory of a closed restaurant called Bond's Burgers and a sinister possessed robot on a rampage. These days, analog horror has become a recognized genre, and it shows no signs of slowing down. The blend of cryptic messages, visual distortions, and bizarre imagery keeps viewers hooked and returning for more. The history of internet piracy. Sean Fanning and Sean Parker were two friends who had the brilliant idea to create a free file-sharing service for music on the internet. Before then, you had to buy a tape or CD or borrow from a friend if you couldn't afford it. The two launched Napster in 1999, and regular users found they could quickly and easily get songs that would be difficult to obtain, like older songs, unreleased recordings, studio recordings, and songs from concert bootleg recordings. Unsurprisingly, Napster racked up 80 million users within a year, quickly becoming one of the fastest-growing businesses ever. But not everyone was happy about their success, and Napster's success was short-lived, and it was down to two little words: internet piracy. Many in the music industry claimed they were losing revenue because their material was being shared digitally without permission. But some others argued that Napster was a great promotional tool, especially for relatively unknown artists to get their music out there. Recording labels, the Recording Industry Association of America, the heavy metal bands Metallica, and Dr. Dre were just a few who filed lawsuits against Napster. After losing multiple lawsuits, Napster was shut down by court order in 2001. But the music industry didn't get to celebrate for long. Another P2P file-sharing application was launched, LimeWire. They learned from Napster's mistakes and used decentralized servers and BitTorrent, allowing LimeWire users to share larger files like movies, software, and games. The same technology was used in many other popular P2P file-sharing programs like the Pirate Bay and Mega Upload. While they were often slammed with lawsuits and shutdowns, more continue to appear thanks to VPNs, streaming sites, and decentralized networks. Today, internet piracy is still a hotly debated topic on the internet. Mariana's Web. It's common knowledge that the internet is split into two parts: the easily accessible web pages and the dark web, which is linked to stories about red rooms and hitmen. However, there are rumors of a third layer of the internet, even deeper than the dark web: Mariana's Web. Named after the deepest trench in the ocean, the Mariana Trench, Mariana's Web is as unexplored and unknown as its namesake. Interest in it only became popular after an infographic it appeared in went viral online. Since then, various conspiracy theories have emerged about Mariana's Web. One theory suggests that it was either the mind behind artificial intelligence or a sentient entity that monitors all online activities. Another theory claims it houses highly classified databases and archives, along with secrets like the location of the Holy Grail, the Vatican's archives, and even details about what was lost in the Library of Alexandria. But accessing Mariana's Web to confirm any of this is no easy feat. Anyone who wants to explore it would need quantum computers to navigate its complex algorithms. However, this technology currently doesn't exist. So, how did the unknown, inaccessible Mariana's Web come to be? Some believe it's all an urban legend. Since the internet was only used by academic and government institutions in its early days, many believed classified reports and secrets were being shared online. Imagine their surprise when the internet became mainstream and they couldn't find anything. They concluded that it had been hidden away in the dark web. But when tools like the Onion Router were popularized and they still didn't find these secrets there, whispers of an even deeper level called Mariana's Web began to circulate. On the other hand, others believe Mariana's Web is quite real. To this day, they keep an eye on any technological advancements that could help them access this mysterious layer and uncover its secrets. Level 3. The Failure of Reddit Island. We all know Reddit, that online forum for sharing content and discussing virtually any topic imaginable, from adults obsessed with My Little Pony to the latest scientific discoveries. But it's not just all talk there. Redditors have come together to do many things. They've bankrupted billion-dollar corporations and even solved 20-year-old mysteries. Clearly, Redditors love doing things together. And it wasn't long before talks about how great it would be to buy an island or a couple of them, declare it an independent nation, and move there. An island just for Redditors. In 2010, a user named Matude started a subreddit called Reddit Island to explore those plans for Reddit Island. But it was abandoned in 2016 and closed. 5 years passed, then another user, Mr. No Name Is Here, rolled up on the scene. On April 30th, 2021, he posted a meme in the meme subreddit that read, "If Redditors wanted to, they would join together and buy an island for a meme," with the caption, "I bet you won't do it." Mr. No Name Is Here didn't stop there. He appeared on the subreddit Ask Reddit and posted a question asking why a group of Redditors hadn't bought any of the islands on sale. On May 1st, he was back on the meme subreddit with another meme with the caption, "Meme." The meme showed an island with the text, "Redditors buy multiple islands and proclaim themselves as an independent nation known as Memeland." He went on to create a subreddit called Reddit Island with some other Redditors. In 3 days, it had 25,000 members. What started as a meme soon entered the planning stage. Over the next couple of days, members of the group posted links to islands for sale, some even posted mock-up flags for the islands, and launched a website. On May 3rd, a Redditor called Reddit Logic King, who was a moderator for another subreddit called Meme Island, released a screenshot of his Reddit DM that showed a message request from a user called Elon Musk Official and captioned it, "Elon Musk wants to talk to me." We'll discuss about the island. As an avid user of Reddit, some hoped that Elon Musk would buy the island. Some even said he could be the president. But not everyone was on board Reddit Island and its benevolent leader. A user called So Bad at This 2017 suggested that they could buy a town since it would be cheaper and accommodate a lot more people than an island. Several people seemed to support the idea, posting memes and upvoting, and a poll was set up to decide which was better. While this debate was still going on, a post appeared on the Reddit Island subreddit by a Redditor user called Island Owner Alt. He had inherited a 120-acre island from his grandfather in Cuba and was open to Redditors setting up on it if they would fund construction and legal costs, and began asking for donations through PayPal. While some Redditors celebrated that they were finally making progress, others were concerned. The island appeared to be covered in trees, and there would be a lot of work and money involved before they could build. It was also in Cuba, and the regime might not allow it. They had no idea that the Cuban government would be the least of their problems. Island owner Alt had been asked for proof of the island and shared it, but it turned out to be fake. By then, some Redditors had donated over $700 and about 73 bitcoins to him. Worried that they were being scammed, a Redditor DM'd him and he shamelessly admitted to it. Though island owner Alt was banned from the subreddit and his account was later suspended, the damage was done and several users left the group. A year later, a Redditor called Crypto Dawn made a post in the subreddit about wanting to start a nation run on crypto, and was open to funding Reddit Island and moving 100 people there. While on the island, they would get income by live streaming and filming, Big Brother style. He also said he would not accept donations and asked those who were interested to respond to the post. The post gained over 150 upvotes and 35 comments, but while some praised the idea, others were convinced it was just another elaborate scam. There has been very little said about Redditor Island since, and whether or not it will ever come to be is anyone's guess. A858. A858 is the shortened name of a private strange subreddit that appeared in 2011. Multiple times a day, a Reddit user with the same name, A858, would post strings of seemingly random letters and numbers. This went on for a year without anyone noticing, but then more and more people started to come across this bizarre subreddit and ask questions about it. The consensus was that it was either a bunch of gibberish or a code. Those who believed it was a code floated ideas that it should be decrypted, and a group of computer science students, amateur cryptographers, and enthusiasts came together to decipher A858. A subreddit, Solving A858, was formed to encourage more participation. But more hands on deck did little to solve the entire cryptic puzzle, and to this day very few have been decoded, and even those answers bring more questions than answers. One was an ASCII image of Stonehenge, another was an excerpt from the 1859 book Action and Passions by Max Lerner. Then there was Thank You Gold in response to a Reddit user who had bought A858 a month of Reddit Gold. Soon, the mysterious subreddit made the news. Then, on March 29, 2016, a Reddit user called Team WMod posted that the A858 project had ended on the Solved 858 subreddit and advised everyone to unsubscribe. Online sleuths discovered that the person who started A858 had been paid to do so, but now the company funding it had pulled out. Shortly after, A858 was locked and went private. Like the famous Cicada 3310 riddle, the most popular theory is that A858 was a government program used to find and recruit the best decoders in the area. Others think it was an alternate reality game. However, no one knows why A858 was created. I'm Sorry, John. I'm Sorry, John is a subreddit based on the 1970s comic Garfield. If you grew up in the 90s, you most likely know Garfield, the fat, orange, grouchy cat that loves lasagna and hates Mondays, as well as his cantankerous relationship with his long-suffering, clumsy owner, John Arbuckle. Like many popular cartoons and comics, fans made edits to the comic, but there was something twisted and unsettling about them. It started in 2019. Fans shared their edited comics on Instagram and on a subreddit called I'm Sorry, John. But in them, Garfield wasn't the familiar, lighthearted character many had come to know and love. The themes were dark, with hints of existential dread and surrealism. In each one, Garfield would express remorse to John in a tone suggesting that something sinister had happened. In many, Garfield was the bad guy and John was his victim. In others, Garfield was a god and John worshipped him. It was nothing like the original Garfield and had none of its humor or lightheartedness, yet the unsettling art resonated with many fans. Something about the irony and creativity involved in turning a beloved character into something that made many uncomfortable appealed to them. Before long, a community of artists and creators emerged, creating even more elaborate and original works inspired by the "I'm sorry, John" concept. The comics went viral on social media, particularly on platforms like Reddit, Instagram, and Tumblr, quickly establishing "I'm sorry, John" as a popular subgenre of Garfield fan art. The most mysterious song on the internet. For years, a song commonly referred to as the most mysterious song on the internet has been on the internet. It was a song about the Cold War and the many lives lost in the battle, but no one knew who sang it or how it got online. However, one Gabriel Vieira was determined to find out. In 2019, he uploaded the song to his YouTube channel and Reddit. He also created a subreddit called The Mysterious Song, which quickly garnered more than 50,000 members, but their investigation went nowhere for a long time. Then, a woman called Lydia sent a message and revealed that her brother, Darius, had recorded the song in 1984 in Wilhelmshaven, Germany. It was a time when there was no Spotify or YouTube. If you liked a song, you waited till it played on the radio and recorded it on a tape. The day Darius recorded the song, he was tuned to a radio show called Musik für junge Leute, German for Music for Young People, on the radio station NDR1, when he heard a song play and recorded it on his cassette. He never heard the song play again, but he kept the tape. Years later, in 2007, Darius' sister Lydia digitized the song and uploaded it to the internet. She also sent a photo of the list of songs Darius had recorded, along with the mysterious song. This new information put new life in the search, and several music lovers reached out to German radio stations and looked through a German government database meant to keep a record of songs that went on air, but found nothing. They even tracked down the DJ who worked at the German station in 1984, but even he didn't know the song. Then, in 2024, a Reddit user named Margin1412 posted that they had finally found the mysterious song. After looking through an 80s German newspaper archive, they found a song about a band called FEX winning an annual talent show called Hurfest. When they reached out to the band for their old recordings, Margin1412 found a song that sounded eerily similar to the mysterious song called Subways of Your Mind. This brought an end to the 17-year search. While the band has since gone their separate ways, they are planning a reunion to re-record the track. Earth's Most Wanted Hacker. When Kevin Mitnick's mother noticed that her son had a passion for electronics, she had no idea it would lead him to becoming a fugitive, and the first hacker to be jailed in the United States. But there were signs. At 12, Mitnick outsmarted Los Angeles public transportation systems by using unused transfer slips to ride buses for free. Another time, he got an unrestricted FCC license to eavesdrop on local police calls with his ham radio. But Mitnick's first real brush with the law came when he was 16 after he hacked a computer in the University of Southern California. He used a fake identity to gain access to a system developed by Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, and copied the software. Some years later, while he was in university, Mitnick breached the computers of one of the most secure locations, the Pentagon. The Pentagon tracked him down and Mitnick was arrested on campus. He was sentenced to a 6-month stint in a young adult detention center for hacking the Pentagon and a year in prison for hacking DEC. After Mitnick got out of prison, he was on a supervised release program for 3 years. In 1992, the last year of his supervised release, Mitnick hacked into Pacific Bell's voicemail computers to listen to the voicemails of the law enforcement personnel he believed were monitoring him. This was the last straw. A warrant was put out for his arrest, but Mitnick skipped town. For the next 2.5 years, he lived as a fugitive, changing identities and cloning cell phones. During this time, he continued to hack networks and steal information, becoming the world's most wanted hacker. But it all came crashing down when he tried to obtain source code for a new phone by faking his identity, which alerted authorities. The authorities got tipped off and Mitnick was arrested with all the evidence they would need to nail him. He was sentenced to 5 years behind bars, but spent a lot of it in solitary confinement because the government was terrified that Mitnick could start a nuclear war if he was anywhere near a phone. The hacking community criticized his treatment, arguing that Mitnick had been mistreated because he had not made any profit and only hacked out of curiosity. When Mitnick got out in 2000, he turned his life around. He became a trusted cybersecurity consultant to many Fortune 500 companies and governments, authored several best-selling books, and even appeared on many popular daytime shows. He passed away in 2023 at 59, but his legacy lives on as a critical figure in modern-day cybersecurity industry. Stuxnet. In 2011, analysts from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, were at Iran's nuclear facility in Natanz to inspect damaged centrifuges being removed and ensure they weren't used to smuggle uranium to unknown locations. The centrifuges were delicate machines and got damaged easily. So, a plant the size of the one in Natanz was expected to have about 800 damaged centrifuges. Instead, the IAEA analyst found 2,000. They couldn't understand why so many of them were ruined or what could be causing it. This just added to the list of disputes against Iran's nuclear program. Ever since the US dropped nuclear bombs on Japan, there has been tension around it happening again. This was heightened during the Cold War, with the US and Russia getting into shady experiments like the US MK-Ultra program and the KGB's project into hypnosis and mind control. The two countries signed treaties on nuclear weapons as well as other countries like Iran. But when Iran kicked off its nuclear program in the 2000s, it became a big problem. There were concerns that they would target Israel and that Israel might launch airstrikes, kicking off a war. A nonviolent approach was needed. Enter Operation Olympic Games, a classified program to develop a computer worm to stop a future war. The worm was called Stuxnet. Once it was in a computer, Stuxnet could install itself on any kind of portable storage like a flash drive. Once the drive was put into any computer, Stuxnet automatically installed itself along with a rootkit that made it very difficult to remove. The rootkit also made Stuxnet undetectable to antiviruses. But Stuxnet didn't target just any computer. It went after computers that controlled Iran's uranium centrifuges. Once the worm detected that it was plugged into its target machine, it would infiltrate it and mess with the controls of the centrifuges. The first version of Stuxnet that was released would close valves, making the pressure rapidly increase till it damaged the centrifuges. The second version was stealthier. This time it modified the speeds they functioned to a far higher level than they were programmed for. At the same time, Stuxnet would send fake signals back to the control computer so the operators would think that everything was still normal. Weeks later, it would rapidly decrease the speed of the centrifuges, which would then cause them to fail and destroy themselves. Meanwhile, the operators had no idea what caused it, and the breakdown was chalked up to the centrifuge's delicate nature. For some time, Stuxnet did its job undetected, destroying a fifth of Iran's nuclear centrifuges. It wasn't until the worm spread to systems outside that system, causing numerous reboots and blue screens, that Stuxnet was identified. By then, Iran's nuclear program had been set back by 2 years. As expected, neither the US nor Israeli government admitted that they created Stuxnet, but in 2012 an article in the New York Times revealed it was a joint move. Stuxnet was one of the first known examples of a computer code participating in an international conflict. Since then, these types of cyber attacks have become accepted as another weapon of war. Level 4. The Lost FBI Tape. In July 2021, a bizarre 8-minute video appeared on YouTube called Dr. Rip VHS. It had no sound and seemed to have been recorded over an 80s TV show called Camera in Furgante. After some seconds, the words "Good Boy" appear, followed by a newspaper clipping on a VHS tape. The clipping was titled "Man Charged with Spraying Irritant in Disneyland," almost like he was praising the assailant. The video cuts to a series of dated pictures with the words "Dead Guest" underneath. Some minutes, the screen goes black and the words "nerve gas" appear, to be followed by the even more sinister words "made easy." What comes next appears to show an individual making something with some chemicals. Then he looms over a homemade clock and calendar indicating 9 o'clock on April 14th, 1995. Then he shows some more chemicals and gingerly handles some things wrapped in foil in a freezer. The video cuts to a clip where he is standing on the roadside before returning to the TV show and fading to blue. The owner of the YouTube channel, Dr. Rip VHS, had found the tape at a Goodwill store in Oregon. His channel was filled with other VHS tapes he had found, but none were as bizarre and confusing as this one. Then, YouTuber Barely Sociable cracked the case, or the tape. The name on the tape, Jerry Hill 199M, New York 252-958, followed the FBI's record system format. Somehow, Dr. Rip had stumbled on an FBI tape. Barely Sociable also worked out that the name Jerry Hill was linked to an FBI agent situated in Portland. So, what did this bizarre tape have to do with the FBI? Well, it all goes back to this newspaper clipping. A day before the one shown, a newspaper clipping showed Disneyland might have received a similar video. The cryptic words at the beginning of the video and the newspaper clipping also suggested that there might be a group deliberately attacking people with nerve gas. It turned out to be a hoax, but before then, the FBI was convinced that members of the infamous Japanese cult called Aum Shinrikyo were making their move. The cult was founded by Tetsuo Matsumoto, also known as Shoko Asahara, in 1986. It started as an eclectic mix of Buddhist, Hindu, and Christian beliefs. Matsumoto described himself as both Christ and the first enlightened one since Buddha. As time went on, the group evolved into a paranoid doomsday cult convinced the world was about to end in a global war and that only they would survive. They became increasingly violent, kidnapping, injuring, and killing opponents, and their goal was to trigger this war and be the only survivors. They employed many scientists and skilled workers to make chemical and biological agents they could use in attacks. Several people reported Aum for illicit activities, but they were never investigated. Things came to a head on March 20th, 1995. Members of the Doomsday Cult planted bags filled with liquid nerve agent developed by the Nazis on 3 train lines during rush hour. The commuters on board only became aware when stinging fumes hit their eyes. In seconds, they were choking and vomiting. 13 people lost their lives and more than 5,000 were injured, some blinded and paralyzed. The group went on the run but made several failed attempts to release hydrogen cyanide in various stations. A month after the subway attack, the threat against Disneyland was made. Since Aum Shinrikyo had threatened various targets, including Disneyland in California, it wasn't far-fetched to believe they planned to hit Disney next, especially since they were still missing. But it turned out to be a hoax. 2 months later, the cult's leader, Shoko Asahara, was arrested along with several of his followers. He and 13 other members were executed in 2018. While this might have put a stop to Aum, the details on who made the lost FBI tape and why, how the FBI lost it, and why it ended up in Goodwill remained shrouded in mystery. Stole. On August 31st, 2014, there were whispers on social media pages about what would be distastefully dubbed the Fappening and later Celebgate. Hundreds of explicit images of the most famous women in the world had been leaked. Many of them were the biggest names in Hollywood and the music scene. It was so unprecedented that even popular on-the-pulse gossip blogs like TMZ took hours before talking about the story. Yet, on Reddit, a subreddit called The Fappening was created to share the photos and gather more than 100,000 followers in a single day. Theories started to emerge on where the photos came from, and the finger of suspicion immediately pointed to Russian security hackers. Others speculated that the Wi-Fi at the Emmy Awards could have been compromised. The speculations didn't last for long. The pictures could all be traced back to an offshoot of the notorious 4chan board called AnonIB. It was an underground forum where users shared explicit and often illegal images. It was on this site, on a board called Stole, short for Stolen Photos, that a user called Original Guy released the photos he had been collecting for months, and he wasn't working alone. The question about how they had gotten the pictures came down to a technology released in 2011, the iCloud. Until then, Apple had marketed the iCloud as the safest thing since treasury bills. Now, there were articles all over the internet insinuating that an iCloud leak allowed the celebrities' phones to be hacked. Apple's stock dived. With the iPhone 6 launch and smartwatch on the way, all marketed with iCloud, they were scrambling for answers. They found out that the hackers had logged into the celebrities' iCloud by either sending phishing emails warning the victims that their accounts might be compromised, or getting the answers to security questions from the vast information online. The hackers had used this method to steal login names and passwords for hundreds of Apple iCloud and Gmail accounts for almost a year. They had also been trading the leaked images on 4chan and AnonIB in exchange for Bitcoin. For some reason, Original Guy turned on the other hackers and posted everything online before disappearing. Immediately after, AnonIB was taken down for 2 weeks. When it came back online, the operator had deleted every post in the Stole forum, including the stolen photographs and ads for iCloud hackers, bringing an end to the hacking ring who were already on the run. Despite the FBI investigation leading to the arrest of 5 perpetrators, Ryan Collins, a married father of 2, Christopher Brennan, a teacher who targeted his students, Emilio Herrera, George Garofano, and Edric Marchik, no one was ever charged with publishing or disseminating the images. Celebgate was a timely reminder that regardless of the promises of corporations, nothing on the internet is safe. The Karen Waldegrave Mystery. On April 14, 2010, a Canadian woman called Karen Waldegrave joined Facebook. She had an impressive profile that announced that she spoke several languages, including French, Estonian, Latvian, English, Russian, Latin, German, and something called Gaelic. Many times, Karen wrote intelligent posts in many of these languages. She often just went into random details about her life or chatted with friends. Karen was also married and pursuing a PhD in international relations at the University of Toronto. But a year later, Karen's page became weird. Her posts were incoherent and nonsensical, and when they weren't, she was rambling about conspiracy theories and cryptic messages, mentioning the Canadian government, local police, the FBI, MI5, MI6, and the CIA. Karen also had the habit of replying to her own posts within minutes like she was in a chat with someone else. Sometimes it was a line or two, other times it was a lengthy paragraph, many times making hundreds of comments. On one particular post, she replied to herself 500 times within 12 hours, which had people wondering if that was all she got up to that day, because at the time, you couldn't schedule posts on personal Facebook pages. To add to the mystery, many of the pictures Karen posted online seemed to have been damaged. Some people even spotted what they thought were ghostly entities in the pictures. Several theories started floating around as people wondered about Karen. Some said she was a spy and was using cryptic messages as codes to communicate with other spies. But it didn't seem likely that a spy would use such a public space, especially with the attention her page was getting. Another theory was that she might have been part of the CIA's discontinued mind control experiment MK Ultra. Several people believe that Karen was either an elderly computer bot to test Facebook or a random text generator prank. However, the majority believed that Karen was either schizophrenic or going through some mental health episode. Some of them tried contacting her. When she didn't respond, they reached out to the friends listed on her page. That was when Karen deleted her Facebook account. This only got more people curious, and online sleuths uncovered her webpage, LinkedIn page, and work history, her husband, Peter Lepek, the many aliases she used on her page, and even her alleged op, Francine McKenzie. But as for Karen, there was no sign of her. She had disappeared. 7 years later, a Facebook page with the name Karen Habsburg Lothringen Waldegrave Kell appeared, posting many more pictures of herself smiling. There were speculations about why she used a different name, but Karen wanted to get back to Facebook without fanfare. She has since changed her name to something else, but she still writes just as erratically as before. Yume Nikki. Yume Nikki was a horror-styled adventure game created by a mysterious, reclusive Japanese developer called Kikiyama in 2004. Unlike many games, there was no dialogue, combat, plot, or way to reach a game over. All the player did was control a female character called Matasuki, starting from her apartment, and an apartment you can't leave. But when you make Matasuki sleep in her bed, she wakes up in a dream world. She appears to still be in the same room, except she can leave the apartment this time. The room opens to a circle of doors, each leading to different eerie and disturbing areas in the dream world. There are 24 different items called effects to collect, and they're activated by pressing 1 or 3 on the number pad. When Matasuki collects all 24 effects, the game ends with a clip of Matasuki jumping off the balcony. The game gathered a significant following worldwide. Some likened playing it to being in an LSD simulator. Others loved the feeling of being lost the game gave them. Over the next 3 years, the game's designer Kikiyama made many updates. On October 1st, 2007, Kikiyama released version 0.10 and disappeared. No one could contact them. This only added another layer of intrigue to the game. Had Kikiyama followed the same path the game's character Matasuki took? One popular theory was that Kikiyama had died in the 2011 Tohoku earthquake that claimed thousands of lives. For 7 years, the question of what had become of Kikiyama was on the lips of many. Then, in 2018, the mystery of what happened to Kikiyama was solved. Well, sort of. Game publishers Playism published the game on a game site to promote a reboot of the game that was on the way. They confirmed that Kikiyama was quite alive and well, and they were also involved in the project. Fans had no choice but to take their word for it. Finally, in 2023, almost 20 years since the game's release, Kikiyama gave their first interview. But fans were going to be disappointed because Kikiyama was only required to give yes or no answers. This only amplified the mystery around them. Yume Nikki went on to inspire many of the current walking simulator games. Pamperchew. This is Pamperchew. He looks like any young man on the outside, but Pamperchew is anything but. He had a website and a YouTube channel where he shared his interests, the furry fandom, his furry art, and videos of himself doing anything furry related, including creating his fursuit, a blue wolf named Sandy Wolf, and wearing said fursuit to conventions. Pamperchew was also obsessed with Pokemon, and when he wasn't in his fursuit, he wore clothes with the cartoon figure. But what made Pamperchew popular was that he wore diapers. Not because he had any medical condition, but because he had a fetish. Naturally, some would assume that Pamperchew was buying his diapers. And he did, but not always. Pamperchew would go into other people's trash looking for soiled baby diapers. Pamperchew tinkered with technology and allegedly developed a capacitor using the soiled diapers. But he didn't stop there. Pamperchew would microwave the used diapers to make them nice and squishy before he slipped them on. When viewers pointed out that it was a fire hazard and he could also fall sick, Pamperchew called them idiots and insisted it was safe and that he had never been sick. This might explain why he ate a lot of expired food. Pamperchew believed that anything canned or bottled had no expiry date. He would make videos of himself eating food that went bad decades ago, calling them vintage. So no one was too surprised when Pamperchew put up a video saying he had been diagnosed with an AIDS-induced cancer called Hodgkin's lymphoma. Surprisingly, Pamperchew has many fans among people with baby furs and adult baby kinks. He also has a website selling diapers from $6 to $60. Apart from that, Pamperchew has his very own daddy, an older Asian man, who appeared in some of Pamperchew's videos. Several viewers were convinced that Pamperchew was suffering from a mental disorder, but he always said he wasn't. There were rumors that he died from cancer, but there is no proof that that's the case. Even though Pamperchew's channel was removed from YouTube, he's remained heavily criticized even among adult babies and diaper lovers, who felt he was giving them a bad rap. Despair Code. The Despair Code first appeared in Level 5 of a conspiracy theory iceberg posted on 4chan's X-board. It is a potent psychological manipulation tool created by secret organizations and encrypted in their archives. This code is believed to induce hopelessness and despair in anyone who comes into contact with it or even tries to decipher it. It is built on the concept that the brain has been proven to be susceptible to subliminal messages and suggestions. The idea that someone can weaponize such a tool wasn't far off. The Despair Code can convince its victims that everything they imagine and experience is real, from the littlest things like hearing voices to suspecting someone is tailing them, making them paranoid and psychotic. The Despair Code can also work like a mind control device, and once a victim hears a particular sound, they are compelled to fall into despair or make deadly choices. So, where is this deadly code? Rumor has it that it was well hidden in the elusive dark web, and some have claimed to have found the Despair Code in cryptic texts and images. However, some believe it is leaked as hidden messages in songs and movies to influence people's mental states and make them feel despair and long for death. Yet, there are still arguments about whether the Despair Code is real, a psychological argument, or just another cryptic meme someone made up. Level 5. 8chan or 8kun. By 2013, the notorious image board 4chan was experiencing increased moderation and restrictions on its controversial content. Several discussions were going on about online censorship and moderation, and those who frowned against what they called loss of free speech on the internet were looking for a new platform with fewer rules governing what could be posted. In came Frederick Brennan, who went on to create 8chan. It was an anonymous site promoted as a free speech site where users could express themselves freely without any constraints imposed on users of 4chan and other forums. Users could also anonymously create boards on any topic they wanted. 8chan had followed 4chan's steps and became an online community known for explicit, illegal, right-wing extremism, online harassment, and conversations around mass violence. It became plagued by even more controversy in 2019 when mass shooters began posting their manifestos on the site before pulling the trigger. In many cases, 8chan users would praise and spur them on when they saw their posts. As far as they were concerned, everyone was free to express themselves on the site. Even Brennan, who had created 8chan, didn't want 8chan running anymore. He has since turned the site over to U.S. Army veteran Jim Watkins. Pressure was on Cloudflare, the American firm that hosted the site, to do something. At first, they defended 8chan's free speech stance, but they invariably caved, and 8chan became inaccessible through its regular domain. 2 months later, 8chan announced a rebrand and name change to salvage the site's reputation. But it became clear a name change did little to influence 8kun users. In 2021, Jim Watkins was summoned before Congress to testify because the site was one of the primary platforms used by far-right rioters and followers of QAnon to plan the January 6, 2021 storming of the U.S. state's Capitol. Despite that, 8kun is still operating. Dream Market. Dream Market was an online market that was founded in 2013, but unlike good old eBay and Amazon, Dream Market operated in the darknet and could only be accessed using the Tor network. Buyers could shop anonymously for just about anything: cryptocurrency, counterfeit consumer goods, even drugs. It was one of many darknet markets operating online alongside Alphabet and Hansa. But in 2017, several law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, DEA, and Europol, teamed up to form Operation Bayonet and bring them down. Some administrators for Alphabet, Hansa, and Dream Market were all found and arrested. The sites were also shut down that same year, all except one, Dream Market. There were whispers around that law enforcement officials were impersonating the site's administrators, but that didn't stop vendors and buyers from Alphabet and Hansa from registering on Dream Market after Operation Bayonet. Dream Market quickly became the most active marketplace on the darknet. 2 years later, on March 24, 2019, users of the site woke up to a notification on the Dream Market site announcing to users that it would shut down in a month and move to a new server, followed by an onion link. This was the first time anything like this had happened on a dark market site. They usually shut down unannounced, giving users enough time to withdraw their coins. This only added to the rumors that the site had been compromised by law enforcement to gather intel on users, especially since that was what they had done with the Hansa marketplace. After Alphabet was shut down, users had moved over to Hansa in huge numbers, and law enforcement had let it happen. They gathered evidence from 27,000 transactions made in 2 weeks before shutting down Hansa. This would lead to around 10,000 arrests. But some believe that all this time Dream Market was being run by a shadow admin that law enforcement never caught. The site had been taken down many times. It's easy to believe this elusive figure was tired of playing cat and mouse with the police and decided to bow out before it was too late. But the truth behind how Dream Market shut down remains one of the secrets of the dark web. Subculture.com. For 20 years, the mysterious website Subculture.com either puzzled visitors or gave them nightmares. It was a dated, cryptic website filled with bizarre, creepy images or GIFs, many of them based on explicit material like terror, gore, torture, and wars. The kind of images that were popular with underground subcultures that had harmful interests. Visitors to the site also had to deal with numerous random pop-ups and images glitching across their screens, almost like your system was on its last leg. Sometimes they got to be so much the only way to close the site was with the task manager. For a long time, no one knew who had created the site or why. There wasn't even a record of the domain name being bought. The popular belief was that the site was created to infect computers with viruses, but others were convinced the site was created to normalize dangerous behaviors within niche communities. It wasn't until 2017 that the YouTube channel Scare Theater revealed that they had found the site's creator, Antonio Mendoza, and cracked the case. Antonio's reason for making the site wasn't what anyone had thought. It was just artwork. In the early internet years between the 90s and early 2000s, internet art, aka net art, became popular with artists using the internet to make art. That's when sites like Subculture.com and CleanPo.com all came to be. Of course, many of them have since been archived or are now offline. As for the glitchy effects on subculture.com, Mendoza had added them to make visitors to the site feel destabilized. Chinese influencer farms. Viewers buying a product because someone is marketing it on a screen is not new. The see now, buy now concept appealed to viewers and made shows like the Home Shopping Network so popular in the 1980s and 90s. In 2017, this concept re-emerged in live streams in China. Influencers became the faces, selling fashion and cosmetic products to millions of online shoppers in real time, generating billions of dollars in revenue. The concept has since become popular in other Asian countries. They aren't influencers who rely on creating relationships with their followers to make sales. Instead, they appear on live shopping platforms, show and use products, and the orders roll in. Farming companies for influencers became popular to drive even more sales. These companies train wannabe influencers to talk and make videos in flattering lighting. Sometimes the companies collaborate with them and set up mini studios equipped with tripods, ring lights, and a webcam to do live streams. Giant corporations like Taobao, China's equivalent of Amazon, and Alibaba fund these operations. While it sounds great on paper, the reality is different. The influencers are trained in harsh conditions to stream for long hours with no breaks. They also have strict contracts and sales quotas while earning minimum wage. Even popular influencers earning good money have no life outside of their streams and act like living puppets of the farming companies. These influencer farms used to be only popular in China, but they have now spread across Asia. A couple were also uncovered in the UK, leaving many to believe that Western companies are now replicating influencer farms to drive sales. Level 6. Benadryl. In many circles, Benadryl, also known as diphenhydramine, is an over-the-counter medication to treat allergies and motion sickness, even for those having trouble sleeping. But in 2020, when word of the Benadryl challenge started to spread across TikTok, it had nothing to do with stopping aches and pains. The challenge was for participants to make videos of themselves downing large doses of Benadryl and the aftermath. High doses of Benadryl are known to cause disturbing side effects like delirium, hallucinations, and psychosis. It could also be fatal. Numerous authorities, including the FDA, put out warnings about the risks involved, but that didn't stop teenagers and youths from hopping on the trend and sharing their experiences on TikTok, Reddit, and 4chan. They reported hearing voices and becoming overwhelmingly paranoid by the most troubling sightings of a sinister character called the Black Hat Man, a tall, shadowy figure in a brimmed hat. Some claimed he spoke to them. Others recalled just experiencing a feeling of dread. Health practitioners were convinced it was a sign that a high level of Benadryl had been taken, but some believe that he is real. Since 2001, a site called the Hat Man Project has been collecting and sharing stories of people who have seen the Hat Man. The stories of the Hat Man have painted him as something between an urban legend and a sleep paralysis demon, but not all the people who saw him were left with happy stories to tell. The lucky ones ended up in the hospital getting their stomachs pumped. The unlucky ones wound up 6 feet under. TikTok has tried to stop the Benadryl challenge by blocking the search term and disabling popular hashtags based on it, but viewers and participants began wrongly spelled hashtags like Benachallenge or Benarychangle to bypass TikTok's policy. Besa Mafia. In 2016, an IT expert called Chris Monteiro was browsing dark web message boards when he found himself on a professional-looking site called Besa Mafia. It was a site that provided hitman services for a price. All they needed to do was send their targets' names, photographs, and addresses. Users could also add any extra details necessary for the hitman to know. They could also pick how they wanted it to happen. Burglary gone wrong, a kidnapping, even murder. Monteiro was convinced that Besa Mafia was phony and wrote an article about it on his blog. Not long after, Monteiro got a message from someone called Yura who tried to get Monteiro to take the post down, first offering to pay him, then sending him threats. When Monteiro refused, Yura put out a video. Not only did Monteiro refuse, but he was able to get into the back end of the site and found what Yura was trying to hide: a long list of names, photos, addresses, and proof that people had paid to have them killed. It was a race against the clock to warn every one of them. Some they got to in time, but for a few, it was too late. Amy Allwine's name was one of those on the kill list, but she was already dead when police tracked her down. Her husband, Stephen, a respected elder in the church, had called in her death as a suicide. It turns out Stephen had paid $12,000 in Bitcoin to Besa Mafia for his wife to be taken out. When the hitman didn't show up, he did it himself. Pretty soon, the FBI was tracking other people who would put out hits like American Christy Lynn Felkins. She parted with 12 Bitcoins to have her ex-husband taken out. The only reason her ex-husband wasn't dead as a doornail was because Besa Mafia was actually an elaborate scam set up by Yura. He lured people in to pay for hits that would never happen. They also couldn't report to the police without incriminating themselves. In the end, Yura made millions of dollars and disappeared. The site was a cruel reminder of the evil intent that could be lurking behind smiling faces. Gamergate. In 2013, video game developer Zoe Quinn released the game Depression Quest, which was praised by mental health professionals and game critics, but not everyone was happy. A year later, when the game went public, Quinn's former boyfriend, Aaron Gagioni, made a rambling blog entry calling out Zoe's behavior during their relationship. He also accused her of having sexual relations with a journalist to get positive coverage of her game. Aaron also included copies of chat logs, text messages, and emails. The post was shared to 4chan, Reddit, 8chan, and Twitter. Quinn became the subject of targeted harassment for what was coined Quinspiracy. She received violent threats and death threats for allegedly using her feminine wiles to get ahead. Adam Baldwin coined the movement Gamergate, describing it as a protest against journalists covering the game industry. Yet even when it got out that Aaron had lied and the journalist he claimed Quinn had seduced for positive reviews had not done any review of Quinn's game, the harassment didn't stop. Like that wasn't bad enough, any woman who called out Gamergate would face this decentralized, faceless, anonymous online mob. Anita Sarkeesian, a feminist media critic and video game developer. Brianna Wu. They were threatened with physical harm. Their social pages were hacked, and they were doxxed and swatted, forcing them to leave their homes. Someone even created a game where players could click a mouse to punch Anita's face. She also had to cancel a speech at an event because violent threats were made to the campus it was holding. One Twitter account targeting Wu was named Death to Brianna. She and her husband now live under different identities. Today, many believe that Gamergate has since died down and women are more accepted in the gaming industry. Others argue that Gamergate was less about the game and more about being abusive towards women. Gore on YouTube. Typically, explicit content, gore, crime, and violence are automatically censored on YouTube thanks to artificial intelligence. But occasionally this content bypasses detection and appears on the site. One of the most prevalent moments this happened was in 2017, when a wave of controversial videos appeared on YouTube Kids starring popular characters from children's shows, such as Elsa from Disney's Frozen, Spider-Man, Peppa Pig, and Mickey Mouse to attract young viewers. The videos would show these characters doing inappropriate, creepy, violent behaviors and even explicit acts like the use of alcohol, gore, BDSM, sex, murder, pregnancy, and even giving birth. Not exactly things that anyone would call child appropriate. Yet these videos would rack up millions of views, which was alarming because children were the prime targets. YouTube cracked down on the plague of inappropriate children's content. Hundreds of accounts were terminated and over 150,000 videos were removed. They now base characters on less popular cartoons like the Australian cartoon Bluey and animations of video games like Minecraft and Among Us. There's no telling if YouTube will ever completely wipe them out. Level 7. Slave Master Case. In the early 2000s, chain letters began circulating in many online communities and chat rooms warning women about a sinister character who used the screen name Slave Master. The letters revealed that he was an online predator who was using the internet to target and traffic women. It also provided descriptions of Slave Master and tips to stay safe online. All the letters ended the same way, encouraging users to keep passing the letter along and warn others. Many thought that the letters were an internet hoax and Slave Master was just another internet legend. What they didn't know was that Slave Master was real. He was a man called John Edward Robinson. The first 3 decades of his life were spent in and out of jail as he racked up charges of theft, fraud, and embezzlement. But Robinson didn't stay in white-collar crimes for long. His first victim was 19-year-old Paula Galene Godfrey, who he hired to work as a sales representative in 1984. After she went missing, her parents received typewritten letters from her. In the letters, Paula wrote how grateful she was for Robinson and mentioned that she didn't want to see her family anymore, followed by her signature. She was never seen again. Robinson hired 3 more women who would also disappear suspiciously, but he was never a suspect because each one sent letters to their family signed by him. By 1994, Robinson discovered the internet, and a whole new world was opened up to him. Using the name Slave Master, he visited online chat rooms looking for women who enjoyed playing the submissive partner role to hook up with. He portrayed himself as rich, promising to care for them and travel the world. All they had to do was take the plunge and come to him. Several did, and were never seen again. Robinson used the same MO, sending letters back to his victims' families. But by 1999, his name had become a byword in many missing women's cases, and police were now very suspicious of him. In 2000, after a woman reported him for battery, the police had all they needed to get a search warrant for his home. There, they found the corpses of 5 women. In 2022, Robinson was convicted of 3 and admitted to 5 others. But many are convinced there are a lot more out there. Today, John Edward Robinson, aka the Slave Master, is known as the first known serial killer to use the internet to lure his victims. He is on death row to this day. Redditor documents their dive into insanity. In August 2015, a user named Is There Life After Lyme appeared on Reddit and made her very first post titled, "Lyme disease has ruined my life and made me suicidal." Bites from deer ticks cause Lyme disease, and it can lead to neurological issues if left untreated. Her first post revealed that she had been suffering from the disease for many years before getting diagnosed. But 1 year into treatment, she wasn't getting any better. Apart from having a hard time keeping up with her bills because her treatment was so expensive, she was also a single mother to a 5-year-old daughter. A daughter that the user believed was showing symptoms of Lyme disease as well. Like that wasn't bad enough, she also felt that her doctor was not giving her the right drugs for her treatment. When Reddit users were alarmed that her doctor might be scamming her, they also felt that her symptoms weren't consistent with Lyme disease. That's when she admitted that she had tested negatively for the disease, but her doctor insisted that she tested negatively because what she suffered from was congenital Lyme disease. Anyone who disagreed was met with a lot of pushback. In her next post, she wrote about experiencing Herx's reactions from her treatment, which is common in patients being treated for Lyme disease. These reactions made her hallucinate, hear voices, and even have psychotic episodes. She reported an incident in a grocery store where the voices were screaming at her to buy things and threatening to hurt her if she didn't. Another time, she was seeing people but wasn't sure if they were real. She ended the post by asking if Lyme disease could make a person bipolar or schizophrenic. This went on for 3 years. Then, in 2019, her posts took a turn. She started posting bizarre takes on the Pizzagate conspiracy theory and a Lyme disease cover-up. Then she wrote another post on how her Herxes reactions were getting worse and making her have vivid hallucinations. She also talked about her terrible living conditions. Her next post was in a relationship subreddit. It was later deleted, but from the title, it's not hard to imagine her ex might have found out what was happening to her and taken
Many
his daughter.
believe these bots can also spread disinformation by swaying public opinion, which is believed to have happened
that
in
were
many
impossible
instances.
to understand.
While the dead
Some
internet
were
theory
even
has
in a
many
completely different
critiques,
language.
it raises the question
In her
of
last
whether the
series of
internet
posts,
is
she
still a
began
platform for
repeating,
genuine
"God has entered
connection,
into
free
my
expression,
body
and
repeatedly."
creativity. It
This
was
is a
once
quote that
believed to
YouTuber
be.
Scare Theater connected to Bob
Storm
Hickman.
Area 51.
It seems like she
Area
was suffering
51,
from a
a
mental
top
decline.
secret, highly
While
classified
some Reddit
United
users
States Air
felt,
Force
"Is there
facility in
life
the middle
after
of the
Lyme?"
Nevada
made the
desert,
whole thing
has been
up and
shrouded
was
in
trolling.
secrets and mystery
Others
since
felt
it was
she didn't
created
have
during
Lyme
the
disease
Cold
and her
War in
doctor was quack.
1955.
They kept
Was
reaching
it
out
really
to her
a
to get her
site to
help.
test planes?
Eventually,
Or
one of
were
them
they
got a
secretly
response
housing
from
and
someone
dissecting
named Diane,
aliens?
who identified
And
herself
why did the
as the
CIA
woman's
keep it a
sister.
secret for
She
almost
said that
50
is
years?
their life after Lyme.
Many
got
people
hurt
wanted to
and
know,
was at a
and one of
hospital in
them was
Albuquerque, New
21-year-old
Mexico.
college student
One
Maddie
Reddit
Roberts.
user might have gotten
On July
close to
27,
identifying
2019,
her, but her
he
account
started a
was soon
Facebook
deleted.
event called
Apart
Storm
from a few
Area
archives of her
51,
Reddit
They
page,
Can't
most
Stop
of her
All
posts
of
have
Us.
been wiped off the
As
internet.
the name implied,
So
the plan
far,
was
no
for
one
a
has been
large
able to
enough group
find
to
out
band
who she
together,
was,
bypass
leaving
security,
many to
and
wonder
raid
if she
Area
ever did get
51
better,
so they could
or if it
uncover
was
whatever the
all
government
made
was
up.
hiding, like extraterrestrial
Mr.
life
Squirrel.
forms and
In
clandestine
2007,
research.
Interpol
The event
launched
went viral
Operation
and made
Vigo
headlines
after
across the
200
world.
photographs
More than 2
surfaced on
million
the
people
internet
responded
showing a
that they
man
would
committing
be going,
despicable
while another
acts on the most
1.5
vulnerable
million
people in
indicated they were
society in
interested.
Southeast Asia,
While some took it as a
particularly
joke,
in
others
Thailand
were
and
quite
Cambodia.
serious about storming
The man,
base.
nicknamed Mr.
Government
Swirl,
officials
was
were
impossible to
equally
identify
serious
because
about
he had
keeping people
digitally
out and
disfigured
gave
his
severe
face to appear
warnings.
like
The
a
Air Force
squirrel.
discouraged anyone
Or so
from
he
attempting to
thought.
enter the military
German
property,
computer
while the
specialists
FBI
broke the
also
case.
stated that they would be
Using the same
monitoring the
filter in the opposite
situation.
direction, they
During the
soon
raid, the
had a
Federal
photo of
Aviation
their man.
Administration planned to
Interpol
close the
posted the
airspace
picture
near
on their
Area
site,
51,
and
but some took the
350
raid a
calls
little
later,
more
the man was
personally, like the
identified
military's
as
Public Relations
32-year-old
Office,
Christopher
Defense
Paul
Visual
Neal,
Information
Canadian
Distribution
school
Service.
teacher in South
They
Korea.
made a now deleted
Neal
Twitter post
originally
showing the
wanted to
photo
be
of a
a
stealth
priest,
bomber
but
with the
didn't make the
caption
cut.
with a very
So he
violent
became the
warning
next best thing,
that was later
a
deleted
teacher.
and followed with an
Interpol
apology.
issued a red notice
Storm
for his
Area
arrest,
51
and
was
local
slated
law
for
enforcement
September 20th,
agencies in Thailand
2019.
and Cambodia were on
Everyone
alert
was
to
on
bring him in,
tenterhooks.
But
out of the
Neal could not be
3.5
found.
million
He
people
had
who
flown the
expressed
coop.
interest,
His last
only
sighting
about
was in Bangkok
150
International
people showed
Airport.
up. Notably
That's when
absent
Interpol
was
did
Maddie
something they had
Roberts, the
never
Facebook
done
user who
before.
created the event.
They made a worldwide
He had stated that
appeal
he had
for
made
help
it up as
finding
one
him
big
and
joke,
released his
especially
picture.
after the
2
FBI
days
came
later,
knocking at his
Neal
door.
was arrested in
Roberts
Thailand.
washed his hands
At
of
the time, he
anyone
was an
who followed
English
through on
teacher
it,
at a
and many
school in
called him a
South
sellout.
Korea.
Instead,
He served
Roberts
10 years in
promoted
jail in
Alien
both
Stock,
Thailand
one of
and
3 music
Canada for his
festivals
heinous
slated to be held
crimes
on the
against
same day.
minors.
Over
In
1,500 people
2017, he was
attended the
released
event
under
held in
rigorous
small towns
conditions
that were
where he
not
couldn't
equipped
even
to handle
breathe
them.
next to anyone
As
under
for the
age of
150
16
who tried to
or
storm Area
access an
51,
electronic device.
none of them succeeded in getting in. There was just one person arrested for urinating near